It had been a day of unwrapping. Katie discovered that sometimes gifts look too good to open, but not for long. Orbie learned that with a kitchen knife, Dad could open the package easily, and they both discovered that with a wrapped-up present, guessing what was inside was a great deal of fun. It was midwinter. Katie and Orbie had just received some very special gifts from Uncle Ed, who missed a few birthdays because he lived in another country. Today, Katie's was a beautiful workstation with all kinds of places to put her artwork and supplies. She was delighted. Orbie's was a super-duper racing sleigh. It had steering handles and brakes, and it had a place for your body and your feet. It was designed after real racing sleighs. For the longest time, Orbie just stood dumbfounded, and he looked at it. He didn't move. And when Katie said his name, he leapt up in the air and wiggled all the way down. This was one of the best presents that he'd ever received. Twitches and fidgets rumbled through Orbie as Dad set up Katie's new workstation. She had all kinds of sections left to fill, but she knew Orbie was anxious to get outside, so she touched Dad's arm. She told him she could do it later, after tobogganing. Orbie didn't even wait for Dad's response. He shot up in the air, and he didn't even touch the floor until he reached the stairs. By the time Katie picked up one boot, Orbie was dressed and holding his sleigh at the front door. Katie giggled to herself. And soon, with Dad in tow, they were off. At the top of the hill, no one wanted to hear about Katie's new workstation. Everybody gazed at Orbie's sleigh. It was simply fantabulous. Orbie grinned proudly and sat on it and prepared to go down the hill, and everybody watched. Orbie adored all the attention. The friends wanted to see how the whole thing worked. Dad at the bottom waved that he was ready for Orbie if he needed help. Miguel shoved Orbie off. He almost flew down the hill. Dad signaled to Orbie to put the brakes on. Orbie pulled them, and the fabulous sleigh came to a stop. At the top of the hill, everybody applauded. Orbie looked up and took a bow. Then he did a nosedive into the snow to make his friends laugh. And at that very moment, Orbie felt like a king. He felt like he had the very best sleigh on the hill. As he ran up to the top again, he noticed his friends gathering there, and they were all looking at Orbie. He thought they wanted to look at the sleigh again, so he was a bit surprised when Arthur asked if he could have a turn. Orbie looked from the sleigh to Arthur, looked at his other friends too, and they all wanted a turn. Orbie ran his mittened hand along the smooth edge of the new sleigh. He knew it wasn't exactly nice, but Orbie snorkeled to all of his friends that it was his new sleigh and he was going to be the one riding it. A look of disappointment crossed their faces, even Katie's. But Katie picked up her toboggan and thumped the snow off. She pointed out that it was hard to share something brand new, and to her delight, Yi-Ping and Andy nodded. Sometimes it really was. As Yi-Ping sat down on the toboggan behind her, Katie added that it wasn't what you were on, it was the ride that counted. And with that, she and all of the friends shoved off. Orbie stood by all by himself, feeling a little sheepish, but realized he got what he wanted. He smiled and tore down the hill faster than all of the others. At the end of the day, Katie and Orbie leaned the sleigh and toboggan against the wall at the back of the house. That night, as they slept, a huge snowstorm spiraled into action and left drifts of snow over everything. The next morning, Katie and Orbie were delighted to see all the new snow. They ate breakfast as quickly as they could. At the back, they found the snow had knocked things over and buried others. Katie pulled her toboggan out of the snow and brushed it off. It must have been a very big wind. But Orbie was shocked. The only thing lying there in the snow was Katie's toboggan. Orbie's sleigh was completely gone. Orbie looked under bushes and dug in the snow at suspicious bumps, only to find rocks or the corner of the sandbox. Orbie couldn't even burble. He was so upset. He trudged into the house to tell Mom and Dad. Dad, already in his jacket and boots, came out to take a look. Mom followed, tugging on her jacket. Orbie hung his head low. He burbled that the wind took it because Orbie hadn't shared yesterday. And Mom was surprised that he hadn't shared. But she assured him that that was not why. Dad told Orbie that the sleigh was light and the wind must have been strong. It literally blew away. It was no one's fault. Katie hugged Orbie and told him he could share the toboggan as they had done before, but that didn't sound like fun to Orbie. I have to tell you, Orbie was feeling very bad about not sharing yesterday. He thought if he only had it back, he'd be sure to give everybody a turn. A little tear trickled down his face, and Katie asked him to please come and toboggan with her. At that very second, at the end of the yard, Chance leapt over a snowy bush and meowed as he slid down something slippery. Katie and Orbie looked up at his meow and then looked at each other. Chance had found the sleigh. It had shot right across the yard and was stopped by the bushes at the very end. And with a whoop and a shriek, Orbie raced over to get it. And that day, Katie was the first down the hill on Orbie's sleigh. After that, each friend had 3 turns. It was ages before Orbie got a turn himself, but when he did, he felt grand. The sleigh may not have gotten lost because he didn't share, but sharing was so much more fun than keeping something all to yourself. And I hope if you get something special and find it hard to share, that you'll remember Orbie and his sleigh. Be a good sharer with all your friends. I know each one of them will appreciate it.
Snowflake has its own shape. You can even make your own special snowflake. Just take a piece of paper and fold it, like this. Now, take your scissors and cut some designs in your piece of paper. Then, unfold the paper and see how pretty your snowflake looks. Wow! Each one is really different.